Okay, so welcome everyone. So I am here today with Laura Parshley. So Laura is amazing. She is in Copenhagen, which is where my home is, although I'm in upstate New York right now. And Laura is a yoga therapist, a massage therapist, a myologist, which means she studies the structure and arrangement and action and function of muscles in the body. And she just so happens to have a passion and very deep interest in the female pelvis and in the muscles, the anatomy, the physiology in the female pelvis. She's given some amazing workshops at the Jade Temple in Copenhagen on the female pelvis. And I thought to bring her on here today to talk about the yoni egg and to specifically talk about some of the more scientific and anatomical perspectives on the yoni egg and how the yoni egg can really benefit the female pelvis from the kind of like the musculature and the anatomical points of view. Am I getting all of that right, Laura? Laura is just like super on it with the languaging. So
yes, all very, very accurate.
Okay, amazing. So I'm just going to start out by asking you, Laura, why is it important for women or people living in a female body or people with a yoni? Why is it important for them to have a strong and healthy and vital pelvis?
Well, male and female pelvises. So the pelvis that was developed under the influence of ovary hormones rather than testicle hormones. So we'll say AFAB individuals assigned female at birth. Our pelvis is very different because it's going to be structurally made to be able to handle bipedal walking, which is walking upright like we do as humans, but also be able to handle childbirth. So to handle childbirth, it needs to have a wider opening. So the head of our very large babies can come out, but because of this compromisation in our stability, we are much more prone to pelvic dysfunctions. Like over 60% of women deal with incontinence, which is urine leakage. Over 50% of women deal with organ prolapse, which means like parts of your organs from your pelvis, like your uterus, your rectum, or your bladder, can sometimes come even outside of your body. So these dysfunctions are so more prone for women as well as many others. So if you keep a healthy and fully functional pelvis and pelvic floor, you're going to help not just even prevent these, but even reverse them in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are two things that have come up for me a lot in the research that I've done with the Jade egg. These issues of incontinence and prolapse. And, you know, I think it's interesting because they're so prevalent, these conditions. Yet I think younger women, like I'm 38, and it's like before I started doing any kind of work with sexuality and the Jade egg and the female pelvis, I never even had heard of these. But I think that it's really important to think about like, okay, how can we prevent these conditions that happen to so many women? How can we prevent them? Like, let's not take a stance on like, okay, we'll deal with it once it happens, but like, how can we keep the pelvis healthy and happy and strong so that some of these things that could happen to us down the line they're just not happening?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same way that they recommend for women to start making sure you have bone density, right? You want to work out to keep your bones strong. So as you get older and age, bone density doesn't become as large of a concern, or just any other thing you do for your health. It's just another part of your body you want to take care of.
Totally. So how would you say that the Jade egg contributes to a woman's pelvis that is healthy and strong and happy and vital and alive?
So what's amazing about the Jade egg is it helps with what you call like neural sensory feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've ever let yourself kind of atrophy and stop working out, we can think about how it becomes really hard to start engaging those muscles when we first start working out again. Mm-hmm. And so we'll use things like either hand weights, or a personal trainer will even tap on certain parts of our body to help bring that sensory feedback so we know where to contract, where to engage. And that's what a Jade egg does. Like, we're putting something that's going to give us that sensory feedback so we're able to get a more full and accurate contraction of those muscles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that might be why, like, a lot of women ask me like, can I just do Kegels? Like, why do I need to have a jade egg? Like, can I just like, you know, be driving my car and like squeeze and release sometimes?
Yes, that is exactly the main comparison.
Yeah.
Originally, when Dr. Kegel had invented his exercises, there was a neural feedback component. There was something that was inserted to the vaginal canal to help you have a good sense of where you should be contracting. So, and when Kegels were originally created, they were about 90% effective for women. Unfortunately, we've kind of drifted, or modern science has drifted away from that internal component. So it's not as largely a part of it. And sorry, there's like a mosquito. um, and now, unfortunately, when they don't use an internal component, Kegels only benefit about 30% of women. And this is the percentage of women who still have a decent amount of connection to this part of their body. So it isn't as drastic of a need for that sensory feedback as well. So using a jade egg is so much superior to not using an internal component, because it's going to give you the sensory feedback you need to have a better contraction of this area.
Yeah, totally. And then like, as you know, like I love to bring in the emotional components and the energetic components. And to me, just like I remember I used to do Kegels like before I even knew what a jade egg was. And I would do them like when I was standing in line and when I was like in class in university and like all of this stuff. And now I realize that a big part of the jade egg practice and like doing anything with the yoni, it's doing it with awareness. It's like creating spaciousness for myself so that I can like, not just like randomly squeeze and release, but so that I can fully feel the contraction of the muscles and fully release them. And although that's not really the topic of this live that we're doing today, I do think it's really important to bring that in, that like a big part of the jade egg practice is connecting with the yoni, is bringing your awareness there, bringing your breath there. And then when you combine that with this egg that's inside for the sensory feedback, it's like my feeling is that the effect of it is that it's actually doing something neurologically and physiologically, where it's like the brain and the vagina are starting to build new neural networks.
Absolutely. It's exactly what's happening. Especially because it's so common, especially with Kegels, like you're saying, just do it in line, and you do it so mindlessly. You're very disconnected from the practice that you're doing. You're doing it almost very clinically, but not in any sense of actual connection to yourself. And this can actually lead to the reversal of the most common problem with women. Most of women have very weak pelvic floors that are loose. And this mindless contraction for Kegels is sometimes causing like a too much tension, like a tightness in this area, but still not strong, just now tight because we're clenching, because we're thinking we're trying to help this area, but because we don't mindfully connect with this part of our body, we just kind of let it contract and we don't fully go through the range of motion for a healthy tissue. And what's amazing about jade egg practices is it really helps you connect with this part of your body. And one of the things I love the most is, unfortunately, when we talk about vaginas for women, or at least when we talk about our own vagina or deal with our own vagina, it always has to deal with sexuality or our periods, right? We don't have a relationship outside of those two experiences, and we should. Why don't we have a relationship outside of these two experiences? Because having a relationship outside of these two experiences with this part of our body will make these two experiences that much better. Because when we have a good relationship with our vaginas and our pelvic floor every day, our cycle is going to be much less painful. It's going to be much more pleasant. And when we take care of our pelvic floor and our vaginas, it's going to improve our sexual health as well.
Yeah, totally. I love that you're saying that. That's like, to me, this is one of the main reasons why I love to teach the yoni egg, because although it has all of these amazing benefits, like some of them that we're talking about now, some that we'll continue to talk about, to me, the foundation of a yoni egg practice is that it creates a new relationship with your yoni. And like you said, it's like, this is not something that most of us are taught growing up. It's not something that like the media teaches us to do. It's like, we're actually taught the opposite. We're really taught to like cut off and push down and like, don't go there. That's not okay. So I'm really happy that you brought that up, because I feel that it's like such an important point.
Mhm.
And also you said one other thing that I just really feel is so important. It's like, I think there's this misconception that like a tight pussy is a good pussy. And I hear that and I'm like, no, like you do not want your vagina to be tight. Yes, you want it to be toned and supple and strong, but not tight. And can you maybe say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's really easy for us, like even, it's hard for us to have heard about things like prolapse and incontinence, but it's a lot easier to have heard about this rather than the dysfunctions that are associated with a tight pelvic floor, because it's less common, significantly less common, because women, we tend to have weak pelvic floors more so due to childbirth, and that's when it gets diagnosed with physicians and addressed. Whereas when women have issues of a tight pelvic floor, but still weak, is usually when we're younger, we're less likely to seek something out. And we very much self-blame these problems. So problems that can be associated with this would be urine urgency and frequency, having to go to the bathroom a lot. And it's like a very urgent feeling, but then you go pee and it's not that much.
Yeah.
A lot of women think it's like a UTI or something like that, and they kind of ignore the fact that it could be a different like physical component. Another problem is very painful periods, because there's so much tension around your uterus and the vaginal opening. You don't have such a smooth flow, and the contractions to release that menstrual blood is a bit more intense and more uncomfortable. This can also lead to painful penetrative sex. About 75% of women, heterosexual women, deal with painful penetrative sex at some point in their experience, which is unfortunate. Women should have always very pleasant sex, and having a very tight pelvic floor can actually cause this discomfort because you've created too much restriction. And then think about tight muscles in your shoulders or anywhere else in your body. It's going to cut circulation off. So it's going to affect your circulatory system, which can then in turn affect the amount of hydration the area gets, which will then affect your ability to naturally lubricate. So vaginal dryness is a potential side effect of having too tight of a pelvic floor.
Oh, this is so fascinating to me, like all of the connections, like with the whole rest of the body. So before we go into that, can you just maybe say a little bit more about this? Like I hear this all the time from women, that they feel like they have tightness and weakness in their pelvic floor and in their vagina at the same time. So how do you think that a jade egg could address those issues of having simultaneous tightness and weakness?
Yeah. So when you think about tightness and weakness, an easy muscle for us to think about is think about people's shoulders, like the top of their shoulders or the front of their shoulders, who works at a computer desk all the time. And because it's just constantly contracted, so it's very tight, but it's very weak. It doesn't actually have a lot of strength behind it. And it's definitely not healthy because it's not going to full ranges of motion. When you get that tight, sometimes you start cutting off your nervous system. You start atrophying in the neurons. So then you don't feel this area as much. So you're definitely disconnected and you're not able to connect with it in a way to become more healthy and start knowing where to relax. Sometimes you'll have people go for massages for their shoulders or go to personal trainers, and they'll touch this area to help them connect with it. So they know, oh, okay, this is where I'm relaxing, because you just forgot about this area to relax. So your jade egg, that sensory feedback that it helps you with when it comes to where you should contract, is going to do the same thing to help you with relaxing. Because once you feel, oh, I'm clenching around this egg, I'm clenching on this, I need to let go of it. I need to relax. And it's going to help you with that connection of the nervous system to build that ability to let go and relax.
I love that. I love that. And that's like when I teach the jade egg, I almost like, especially at first, I teach relaxing and softening and melting. It's almost like the yoni can just kind of like flower open. to me, that's like you were mentioning supple, like that is like supple, that's like a supple muscle with a full range of motion. And this is what we want inside of the vagina. We want the muscles to be able to contract fully, but also fully able to release. And I think that, like we've been talking about, for most of us, we carry some sort of habitual tension in the yoni. If you're watching this right now, you can see if you can try to relax your yoni a little bit. I just noticed I had a little bit of tension there. So I think the jade egg is so beautiful because it simultaneously builds tone and strength, which is super important, but it also teaches us how to relax, which also I think can support receiving, which has a lot of other pleasure benefits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how much, I guess the main thing I would say that I love about a jade egg practice is it builds awareness. It really helps us connect with the part of a body that we tend to not connect with, especially when you talk about subtle things. It's like drinking a really nice tea, right? It's got very subtle, amazing undertones you can connect with versus just drinking a really strong, intense tea. So if you think about like sex, it's usually like a strong, intense tea. It's usually a bit more abrasive. It's in more intense sensations. Um, so it's not like these subtle connections, whereas like a jade egg practice is subtle connections, like the practice of sipping an egg in. Like the how much you connect with that part of your body to be able to pull something in is amazing, and how that really helps build the dexterity of this muscle group that we tend to ignore so often.
Totally. I'm so absolutely with you on that. Can you say a little bit more about how toned and strong pelvis and pelvic floor, how that can support other systems in the body, like the circulatory system or the neurology in the body?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was saying before, when we have very tight muscles or atrophied muscles, like it's very easy for us to acknowledge a muscle can atrophy, right? Like when we don't work out for a while, we definitely notice that things jiggle more than they were toned before. um, the same way that muscles atrophy, everything else can. So your nervous system is going to have less connections. Your circulatory system is going to be less strong, including the vasculature.
Mhm.
And when you have less flow coming to areas, whether it be through your circulatory system or messages through your nervous system, it's going to affect the entire experience. And the best way to start waking up these systems in an area is by waking up the muscles and getting the muscles moving in their full healthy range of motion to full contraction, full release, and getting them stronger and more dexterity to them. And what's amazing is as you start, it's most women, when we start engaging our pelvic floors, we get very confused. We're not entirely sure. We feel like, are we even doing this right? It's pretty hard. But as you start building that strength and the awareness, it starts getting easier because the neural pathways start building. So things start becoming just more connected and more centrally aware because there are more neurons to actually help that awareness be built. And then this, like I was saying before, it's just kind of like cascade and domino into so many different areas. Like increasing the circulation is going to increase the blood flow and fluid in the area in general to help with things like vaginal dryness. It's going to help with keeping all the cells healthy because of if you're potentially dealing with things like cervical cancer or mutating cells. If you have a healthy tissue where it's getting healthy circulation, you're going to reduce the chances of any kind of mutation that could cause things like cervical cancer.
Mm.
So it's so amazing and beneficial to just keep your body moving, full ranges of motion. It's going to just keep you healthier longer.
Wow, I love this. It's like it got chills when you were talking. It's so inspiring to me to think about just like the various connections that are there and how like by going into the yoni and reconnecting and building the muscle tone, it's like, yes, we're affecting our yoni, but we're also affecting our entire body and all of the systems in the body. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's amazing how like everything is so connected.
Yeah. And another thing I remember learning about several years ago is how there are, I think, 5 major nerve endings that run from various parts of our brains to different parts of the female anatomy. So there's the vagus nerve, the pudendal nerve, the pelvic nerve, and two more, I think, that are, their names are escaping me right now, but it makes absolute sense that if we're not consistently bringing our awareness, our attention, our breath, and yes, like these pulses and releases or squeezes and releases, however you want to say it, if we're not consciously bringing this into the yoni, into the vagina, then of course we're not going to have so much of a connection there. Of course, you know, so many women and people with yonis tell me I can't feel so much during sex. This used to be me. Like now I'm like, well, duh, it makes absolute sense why I wasn't feeling anything. It makes total sense why I wasn't able to have a vaginal orgasm. And then like very soon after I started using the jade egg, like I became like wildly multi-orgasmic. Like it's not rocket science, honestly.
Yeah, it's very easy. It's very easy to like, once you start thinking about it, like, oh yeah, that completely makes sense. And especially when you start thinking of it in other parts of our body, how easily people become desensitized, especially in their shoulders when they get very tight. They just don't really feel things the way they are meant to. But once you start stretching it, doing yoga or whatever you're going to do to try to bring health back to your shoulder, the same thing can happen to our pelvis.
Totally, totally. So can you say, let's talk a little bit more about this pleasure component. Like, how do you think, you know, I speak of it all the time more from, again, like an emotional and an energetic perspective, but from like an anatomical or scientific perspective, how or why do you think that the jade egg can support a person with a yoni to have more sensitivity, more pleasure, and more orgasmic ability?
Yeah, so there's two main components of this. The neurology, which we already kind of started talking about, like how just building more awareness to the area and improving the health and the circulation to this area is going to also increase the sensory capability of this area. We have so many nerve endings in our vagina that kind of wind up getting shut down or shut off because we're not using them or connecting with them. So what's amazing is as you start to do this practice where you have something that is going to be inside of you, your jade egg, it's going to massage the skin, obviously. And this is going to help wake up those nerves and wake up those connections and build better pathways for your nervous system to be able to send those messages to your brain so you have more sensitivity. So that just right there is very, like, already is mind blowing, like how much just by having this practice where you're paying attention to a part of your body makes you more aware of it. So that's going to bring so much more sensation, which is phenomenal. But what's happening during the other major component of how this is going to improve like your sex life and your orgasms is for an orgasm, what's happening is your pelvic floor is very strongly contracting and releasing, contracting and releasing. So if you have a strong pelvic floor, but then also a very, you know, like you have a lot of dexterity, very dextile pelvic floor, so it's able to go through those full ranges of motion, the more intense it's going to feel. So if you have a strong pelvic floor that's healthy, that can fully contract and fully relax, it's going to be a much more intense orgasm, because when you're having that orgasm, your pelvic floor is going to be able to strongly and completely contract and then completely relax to completely contract again. Because those intense pulsing of contraction during an orgasm, that's what gives you that full body amazing experience and feeling. So having health in the pelvic floor muscles to be able to do that is going to make it that much better when you get there.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. It's like if your muscles are weak and tight and you're having an orgasm, like it might be like this. But if your muscles are toned and strong and can fully contract and release, then it's more like this.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love with the Jade Egg practice is that we're not just keeping the sexual energy localized in the pelvis. There's definitely an emphasis on lifting the energy through the entire body and channeling it all through the body. So eventually someone with a yoni can get proficient at taking this orgasmic energy or the sexual energy and bringing it up, for example, to the heart or the breasts or the throat or the third eye or really anywhere in the body. And that's when full body orgasms or energy orgasms or orgasms anywhere in the body actually become like quite, I don't want to say simple, but in some ways quite simple to train yourself to experience. This is not just something, in my viewpoint, that like a couple of really lucky women over here are able to experience. It's something that any person with a yoni can train oneself to experience.
Yeah, and it is a huge component to do that, is doing the kind of work that you do, is doing the work to be mindful and realizing, one, to connect with your pelvis, because so many women are so disconnected, but then realize that your pelvis is also connected to the entirety of the wonderfulness that is you and your body. And once you realize that everything's connected, it's amazing how much everything can kind of just flow and explode into each other.
Totally. Oh, I love it. Oh, this is just so beautiful, Laura. Laura and I really can like geek out on this stuff for like hours and hours on end. So before we came on this live, we were like, we have to keep ourselves to a minimal amount of time. So I just want to, before we wrap it up, I just want to see if there's any like last bits of information or anything that's come to you that you want to share. It can be related to what we've been speaking about, or it can be something completely different.
No, I feel like we've got actually really, I feel like if I start branching to other things, I won't shut up. But I feel like, yeah, like all of what we covered has been like super good. I just, yeah, I really want to encourage. Actually, so yeah, there's one thing I want to bring up. Okay, because I feel like it's very relevant. So we're talking about sensory feedback and the benefits of internal use. We're talking about Jade. That's the practice that you and I both super resonate with. And there are other women out there who might watch this and be like, well, can't I just use Benoit balls or Kegel weights and stuff like that? So I want to quickly address that. And yes, you can, because I feel like everyone, whatever is going to get you to take care of your pelvis and your vagina, I want to champion that. I want to explain why I like Jade practice. That's where I fall into. There's a few reasons. One, I don't feel the need to use weights. I don't necessarily think that's very healthy. I think it's a very delicate, small muscle group. We don't have to go crazy with it. And I think if you hold like a nephrite jade egg, there's a little bit of weight to it. Like it's not like you're just putting something like a ping pong ball. It's not that. It's definitely got some weight to it. But I don't feel the need to go heavier than that. I think that can be very fatiguing for our muscles if we're not practicing very mindfully. Also, I love the tradition of it, right? There's like this tradition of women for centuries taking this for their health. Like, yes, it may have started as kind of a misogynistic practice in a way, like it was for men's pleasure, but there was immediately realized the health and benefit that it had for women in like Taoist traditions, and how it was worth it to keep the women they considered worth having healthy pelvises, how much it really did benefit them. And I love that tradition and like love that has gone to the pelvis with that, and I resonate really strongly with it. There's other benefits as well. A lot of like Kegel balls or Benoit balls can be silicone based and can actually break down, like the material of it can break down and could potentially become harmful to the vagina as well. Whereas like a jade, like a real nephrite jade egg, it's not breaking down. It's a hard crystal. It's what it is. It's not porous. It's not absorbent. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny how there are sometimes people will attack jade eggs and be like, you can get issues like toxic shock syndrome and different like that. And one thing, the chances of you getting TSS is less likely than getting struck by lightning. So I feel like that's a nice perspective. And then, yeah. And then the chances of you getting it from something like a jade egg that is not porous is even less likely. You're more likely to get it from tampons, the string from an IUD, or quite honestly, some of these other Kegel balls or Benoit ball products, because they have walls and materials that might break down, especially if you're using the wrong kind of lubricants with them. There's things like that you don't have to worry about with a jade egg. It's a strong crystal. It's not breaking down. It's not compromising. As long as you have a good quality one, you bought it from someone like Hillary who's got good quality, you're going to be good. It's fine. So I just wanted to add that. I'm trying to not talk too much.
Thanks for bringing that aspect in, because this is a question that I get asked all the time, is like, is the jade egg safe? And a lot of the times what it's coming from is this idea that maybe it can harbor bacteria and then somehow get inside you and get an infection. And the unfortunate thing is that there are a lot of jade eggs that are now being made out of materials that are not jade. They look like jade, but they're cheaper, softer stones. And jade is expensive. So it's, you know, it's profitable for people to market fake eggs and call them real jade. But that is when it becomes dangerous, because those cheaper, softer stones, they can harbor bacteria. They are porous, and that's when it becomes unsafe to use. But using 100% pure nephrite jade or jadeite jade egg, this is totally safe in terms of the bacteria and the like the cleanliness of the practice.
Yeah. And also the safety of the crystal. I think that's something else people like, oh, what if it shatters in me? And like, if you have real jade, it's not shattering. So it's important to source where you're getting it from. And something I always say to people also is like, and it is expensive. So if you're spending less than $50 on it, consider where it's coming from, because it really shouldn't be less than that. It should be around what it costs, 50, maybe some more, but anything less than that, I'm concerned of its quality, basically.
Yeah, that's a good indication. I always like, I have a hard time finding $50 jade eggs. Like 60 is usually the cheapest that I can find them for, but that's a really great indication for anyone watching, is the price. Like if you see a jade egg for like 20 or 30 bucks, it's too good to be true. It's not real jade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Laura, thank you so much for waking up super early in Thailand and coming here and sharing this conversation. It's been so beautiful to chat and share with you. I really know that we could just go on and on and on, which maybe we'll have more videos and collaborations at some other point. But yeah, I just want to say thank you. And for anyone who's watching, if you want to know even more about the jade egg, tomorrow, so this is Tuesday the 14th at noon Eastern time, so that's New York time, I'm going to be doing a free jade egg workshop online where I'm going to be sharing a lot about the practice, a lot about the background of the practice, the different benefits. We'll talk a little bit about the stuff that we talked about today, so the muscles and the pleasure, but I'm also going to talk a lot about how the jade egg can support feminine healing or sexual healing or healing from any kind of past sexual wounding that you might be carrying. And then also how the jade egg can even support the healing of stuff like the tight muscles, or like cysts or fibroids or painful periods or irregular periods, stuff like this. So I'll go way more into that tomorrow. And I'll also share a lot about practicalities of the practice. So how to choose your egg, the differences between crystals, how to clean your egg, how to care for your egg. And I'll give many tips that I love to share with women for how to use the egg to your benefit. Stuff like not squeezing super, super tight. Like you don't need to squeeze to 100% of the capacity. Like squeezing to about 70% is all you need. And then the full relaxation. So I'm really excited to give this workshop tomorrow. I've given this workshop literally hundreds of times in person, and I don't think I've ever given it fully online before. No, I haven't. So yeah, if you want to know more, there's in this Facebook group, you'll see it. WTF is the Jade Egg. I'll link it in the comments as well. And you can totally sign up and register if you want. There's also a replay that will be coming. So thank you again, Laura. You're so beautiful. Thank you for all of your knowledge, your expertise. Where can people find you if they're like, we want more of you? Where can they find you online?
I think being on the island has put me in this weird space of having not as great online presence, but they can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Instagram through the Wellness Nook. It's my business's name. So that's NOOK at the end. And that's probably the best place to be for different updates and stuff like that, for different projects I'm currently working on for like the female pelvis and stuff like that.
Amazing. So we'll link Laura's contact information in the comments as well, and definitely look her up. She's just a wellspring of incredible knowledge when it comes to the female pelvis. I've learned so much from her. So I'm super, super grateful for all that she has studied and that she transmits. So thank
Oh,
you
thank you.
so much, Laura, and everyone who has tuned in. And I'm wishing you such a beautiful evening or day wherever you are in the world. Ciao.
Bye.
All right, I'm still live on Facebook.